Hi guys, and welcome to the Xiong and Klaw Geek Out podcast. In this episode we're going to talk about what films or TV shows made us have feelings.
Hi guys, as ever, I'm Klaw.
And I'm Xiong.
And as we said today, we're wanting to talk about kind of times we've got emotional in movies and TV shows. I think part of this is kind of the just wanting to help promote mental health issues and sort of just highlight how, it is okay to cry. Now, we'll say off the bat, this episode is going to be full, and I mean full of spoilers for all the things we're talking about, because quite literally there's no way of avoiding it, unfortunately. So, we will mention what the show is at the start of each section. Feel free to skip through anything where you really don't want the plot spoiled for you. So what do you want to start with, Xiong?
I'm going to go for Naruto.
Oh, okay, I love Naruto, but not seen it in years, so I'll confess straight away my memory will be a bit sketchy.
And I will apologise for anyone who's listening that I destroy these names. This scene is between Itachi and Sasuke, which are brothers, and they are from a different village originally.
Yes.
Okay? So, just to give you some background, so the scene that I'm going to talk about makes sense. Itachi killed all members of his village, leaving his younger brother Sasuke the only living member, which is Sasuke's main goal throughout Naruto, to get stronger to kill his brother. Itachi became a member of the Akatsuki, a terrorist group stealing ninjas who possessed the tail beasts. Years later, Sasuke finds Itachi and they have a fight where Itachi kept taunting how weak Sasuke was.
Oh yeah, I remember his brother's a bit of a dick in it, isn't he?
So I've just basically summed up loads of series into that little paragraph, but basically that's all you need to know about Sasuke and Itachi at the moment.
Well, you say loads of series. Once you cut out all of the recaps and the flashbacks and the retelling, it's probably about half an hour's worth of show, to be honest.
So the scene that when I say I get emotional, I didn't cry, but I'm going to put it out there. Itachi is your typical anime manga character who does the wrong things for the right reason.
Yeah.
But like you said, all the way through the series until this scene, you think he's a bit of a prick. So the scene is, I'm just going to read from my notes. The emotional part is where both brothers are injured. Itachi walking up to his brother, taunting about ripping out his eyes to end their village for once and for all, and pokes Sasuke on the forehead like he did as a child, smiles and falls to the floor. This is after they've just had a massive battle. They're both sort of knackered, Sasuke then gets told the truth behind his brother's actions. Story short, two villages came together to make one and to make peace between them. Itachi and Sasuke's village were going to rebel, and Itachi had seen enough death in the Second Ninja War, so he killed his village to keep the peace, sparing his brother's life. There is more to it than that, but that's the general over why he saved Sasuke and never killed Sasuke.
Yeah, I do love Naruto for just how dark the storylines are behind such a brightly coloured, happy series.
I've probably not done it justice, this scene, the way I've explained it, but it is a fact that I'm sure it takes place where there is another war going on, and Sasuke and Itachi had just come out of whatever fight they were doing, and then saw each other and started to fight.
Yeah.
Itachi had attacked Naruto previously, taunting Naruto about Sasuke as well, and asking why Naruto was so hell-bent on saving Sasuke, because Sasuke left Naruto's village and basically went to the dark side and, gained power where he shouldn't have done and so forth. And Naruto referred to, he's the closest thing to Naruto as a brother that he's ever had, because Naruto is a single child and an orphan, which gets explained later in the series, but we won't go there. And I think Itachi, like I said, he did the wrong thing for the right reasons, and I think he was just trying to push Naruto more to be the brother he wasn't for Sasuke, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But all the way through before obviously Itachi's death, every time he did run into Sasuke, he taunted Sasuke, and I think it comes out the last thing he said to him when he killed the village when Sasuke was younger was, "That hatred you have for me, use it." Because I think he wanted Sasuke to come and kill him in the end for what he did. So it's not like he didn't understand what... It's not like, I'll kill my village, peaceful. He kind of was holding accountability straight away for it.
Yeah, okay.
There is more into... I think he goes into more depth why he killed the village as well. I think there's more behind-the-scenes influence, but... that's what touched my heart with Naruto. And we won't go into another one that destroyed me because I was coming up to an episode where spoiler alert, a main character dies, and before I got to that episode, it was spoiled on Facebook for me.
No!
And it's heartbreaking. Very heartbreaking.
Oh, we definitely need to rewatch Naruto at some point, along with a million and one other things.
And
but
if listeners have never watched Naruto, watch Naruto. I would say watch the first, probably few episodes of the first series of the Naruto one, series.
Yeah.
And then just jump straight to Naruto
Shippuden.
Yeah, because the rest of Naruto is a lot of filler, a lot of background story, which you don't really need to know. Just jump to when they're like 5 years older.
And I seem to remember about 10 episodes where they're fighting in a forest, and each episode they managed to advance the fight by about 5 minutes by the time they'd finished recapping what happened the episode before.
If you are going to go and watch Naruto and are new to Naruto, there are where you spend like 5 episodes on one fight, and most of that is them just shouting at each other across the battlefield.
Yeah. So, typical Shonen Jump affair, really.
Yep.
Okay, well, I'm going to take things way back, and just briefly talk about like the very first film that ever made me cry. Which I was actually quite surprised when I was doing research for this, and it actually shows up on quite a few like top 20 lists, and that's The Land Before Time. Forget Bambi's mum dying. The Land Before Time is just even more heart-wrenching because, again, main character, his mum gets killed right at the beginning, and sort of as she's dying, she sort of just like whispers to him, "Let your heart guide you. It whispers, so listen closely." And that just, like, every time... I mean, I watched that film a million times as a kid, and I don't think I could get past that opening without crying. I don't know if it quite have the same effect now, but it was definitely one of those like first times of really feeling emotional about
I can't really comment because I know what film it is. For those who don't, it's the very old cartoon of dinosaurs.
Yes, that's it. I was crying over a dead dinosaur.
But I remember bits of it, and I remember having like a weird little plastic puppet thing of one of them. But I can't sit here and say
I think McDonald's did toys at the time, and so you had like lots of Land Before Time merchandise was around in the 80s.
I know they've done 3 in total, I believe.
Yeah, I'm always very dubious of any sequel to any kids film. Most of the... I think it's because so many of the sequels end up being these kind of like straight-to-video affairs. It's like most of the Disney sequel films, Frozen 2 being an exception to this, but most of the Disney like sequel films are, pretty much just cash in, make a bit of extra money because people love these characters, so we'll do another film. So I mean, it is a classic film, and I would highly recommend anyone who hasn't seen it to watch it. Again, obviously, it is a kids' film, so take that in mind. But definitely one to add to your watch list as a classic worth seeing. And now this is the rest of the episode taken up talking about Buffy. Let's go
with the episode called "The Body."
Yeah.
So a little bit background again. The Body is the 5th episode in Series 5. Buffy's mum has already said that she doesn't feel well, and within the series, Buffy did a spell to see what shouldn't be there around them, which would see if anything was making her ill. Points out, indicates it was Dawn, her sister. Yes, I know, Buffy has a sister, for those who never got past Series 4. Which Buffy believed was the cause of Joyce's illness, then finds out it wasn't because of Dawn. So the whole episode, I know me and Klaw have both got different reasons why we basically got upset with this one. So I'm going to give you what the whole episode's about, and then I think that's when your part comes in. Okay. So the whole episode, it starts with Buffy walking into the house to find her mum on the sofa dead. Helpless Buffy panics, calls 911 and is unable to save her. They add a little bit of comedy here, which I kind of like, just to break up the seriousness, is when she breaks the rib.
I mean, I'm not even sure if it's that comedic.
No,
it kind of shows the distress in the whole situation.
I think it's... Yeah, I know you can break ribs while doing CPR, but I think it's the look on her face. It's like, oh my God, I've just broke my mum's rib type thing. But for me, it kind of just lifts it up a bit just to...
Yeah.
So, yeah...
Because I think the writing's on the wall, way before that anyway.
But I do like how it kind of grounds Buffy as well. The fact that she can't save her mum at all. Yeah. Basically, the paramedics come out and everything, and sadly, Joyce is pronounced dead. And basically, the whole episode is how her and the Scooby Gang basically react to the news of Buffy's mum's death. Which was not supernatural death or anything. It was just a brain hemorrhage. I mean, I say that bad, just a brain hemorrhage, but within the Buffy...
Yeah, within the scope of the show, it was a normal thing. It wasn't anything supernatural or planned or anything like that.
So, do you want to talk about your bit first?
Oh, God. I mean, there is so much in that episode that just kind of tugs on the heartstrings, like, constantly. But I think it's even just that opening moment when she just walks in the room and Joyce is just lying there. And I think as a viewer you instantly know, oh shit. Yeah, and I think it's just that whole, the 911 call and her desperately trying to do something about it, even though it's already way too late for that.
Especially when she rings Giles at the end of that opening where he's like, "What's up, Buffy?" and he's like, "She's here." Like, she's not saying who it is, she's just like, "She's here." It's very... We obviously, as a viewer, we know what the hell's going on.
Yeah.
And I think that's the first time Giles as well is useless in a sense, because he hasn't got the answers, he doesn't know what the hell's going on.
And it does capture very well that when you for anyone who's been unfortunate enough to be in any situations like that, it is that initial moments of, nothing in life prepares you for that. And, you do just kind of just go into this complete, just like, brain just goes completely blank. It's just like, now what? There's just no way of sort of knowing how to handle such a thing.
So the scene that really gets me, and it's one of those where I don't have to watch the full episode, I could just watch that scene and I cry, is where, for those who've not watched Buffy, there's a character in it called Anya. She's an ex-demon, and obviously she doesn't know how humans basically work. There's a scene where her and Xander walk into Willow and Tara's bedroom at the college, and they're all sort of mourning over Joyce's death. And Anya's asking ridiculous questions that are really... You are sitting there going, what the hell are you doing? She's asking, random questions.
But again, I think it does quite a good job of its vocalising a lot of the things that I think do go through people's heads in those situations. But again, we know not to ask them. But again, it's like... Is the fact that we don't ask those questions the right thing, or should we be asking those questions?
The part in the scene that gets me is, and I'll quote this word for word, and when Willow tells her to shut her mouth and asks, what is wrong with you? Anya replies with, "But I don't understand. I don't understand how this all happens. How we go through this. I mean, I know her, and she's there. There's just a body. I don't understand why she can't just get back into the body and not be dead anymore. It's stupid. It's mortal and stupid." And Xander's crying and not talking, and I was having fruit punch, and I thought, well, Joyce will never have fruit punch ever, and she'll never have eggs or yarn or brush her hair, not ever, and no one will explain to me why. That's it.
Yep.
Sorry, I'm just holding back tears, people. Sorry.
Excuse the slight silence, everybody, as we both just
I don't even have to watch the thing. I have to just read it word for word.
Yeah.
It is very upsetting because, like you said before, I think that goes into your head is like, often not about the fruit punch and comb the hair, but it is the whole, why can't she just get back in? Why can't she, you know? And then when she says, and then of course when she says she'll never brush her hair or have eggs again, you know, and like you said, you know, you could see Anya as a child kind of thing, you know. She plays that kind of voice of, like you say, those questions you never ask. And I think, like you say, if you've been in that situation where you've lost someone and you don't understand why, Anya's that kind of person who's vocalising what you're thinking. Anyway, over to you, Klaw, for your next one.
Oh, where do we go from there? So yeah, I mean, I think one of the things and one of the reasons why I love Buffy so much is there are so many moments like that throughout the entire show, and you know the writers, you know, whether that be Josh Whedon, who, you know, is currently a little bit of a controversial person to talk about, but it's not just him. He had a good team around him as well. But you know, there's lots of moments. I mean, you can briefly touch on things like the end of season 6, where they really kind of turn it on its head, and Buffy's not even the one to save the day. It's Xander's love for Willow that, you know, is the thing that gets through to her and like brings her down off the precipice.
And I think that's what's great about Buffy as well, is the fact that, yeah, it's a supernatural environment and everything, but like we've had Joyce's death, which was natural. A natural love for someone saves the day, and like you said, Buffy wasn't even there to be the person. It was the probably the only normal person in the whole Scooby Gang.
Yeah,
that saved the day.
Which I think is good. It's just very impactful. You know, that kind of got tears in my eyes, and they keep it up right to the very end, because obviously we've already mentioned Anya and her approach to things. But it's the way that the very, very end of the show, they have a massive fight. They've all, you know, just about got out. And I'm now trying to remember exactly how it happens. But literally in, like, the closing, like, what, 5 minutes?
No, it's where they reopen the Hellmouth. All the Slayers go down into the Hellmouth, basically, where the first vampires, whatever they were.
Yeah.
And it was the monks that were, like the protectors or whatever, were up in the school, and Anya, not being the demon anymore, basically was with Andrew, and she basically protected him, and one of the monks came up and sliced her basically in half.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then I think it's at the end where they're all escaping because they've done what they've had to do.
Oh yes, that's why I was thinking it's right at the end, because Xander doesn't know.
No, Xander. You see Xander shouting for Anya, and you see her body.
Yeah. It's okay. That's what we're here for. Crying is allowed. But yeah, you're right. I think that's the thing, is that it's not until right at the end when they all think that, yes, we've saved the day, that Xander's then suddenly realising she's not there.
And I think the best part of it is when he asks Andrew, you know, obviously he's clicked that she's dead. He goes, she saved my life. She picked up crying over TV show. Yeah, you go, and then Xander's like, that's my girl. Stupid.
It's a good job we're not on camera, because we're both crying like fucking babies. But,
yeah, so for those who didn't hear me then, sorry. He asked, Andrew tells him she did it, saving his life, and Xander goes, that's my girl.
Yeah.
Anyway, shall we talk about Buffy's death? Which one? Yeah.
I was going to say, which one?
It's funny, when Buffy dies, I wasn't upset with that. I remember watching it with my mum. Hopefully I won't cry this time. And it's the part where the speech she gives Dawn's playing, and you see her body on the bricks, and everyone's coming around, and it's not until Spike falls to the floor, and I remember Mum going, "Oh, my Spike." That was me gone then. Yeah. It wasn't the fact that Buffy was dead; it was just Spike's reaction. It
I
just
think
killed
the
me.
main thing for me around, because they have the whole thing that she dies several times, and they drag, at one point they drag her back from heaven because they're like, oh, we can't leave her dead, and they actually don't realise that she's not in hell. She's actually made it to heaven.
Yeah.
And they drag her back from heaven, and I think it's the moment when, because she keeps that a secret for a very long time. And I think it's that moment when because it's actually in Once More We're Feeling with the whole truth songs stuff, where, she suddenly goes, I was in heaven. And it's just that moment of like, oh shit.
It's the look on, I think, Willow's face, because she realises what she's done. And doesn't Buffy refer to, they dragged her out of heaven and placed her in hell? She says some lines, I think I'm in hell because they dragged me out of heaven.
Yeah, because it's the whole thing that she's like struggling with feeling emotions and all sort of things. Yeah. And, that's part of what then leads to Willow just going over the edge and darkness and horribleness.
So, keeping with TV shows, Doctor Who.
Oh, God.
Now, I had...
Help.
Now, anyone who knows me, I will cry at anything about Doctor Who, especially the Matt Smith run with the Ponds and River Song.
I think... I mean, Buffy's a close second place to this, but I think Doctor Who probably does hold the crown for the show that's made me cry the most.
Yeah, same here. Buffy has made me cry, as you've all just found out. But, I had a lot of Doctor Who moments, and like I said, it's mainly with Matt's Doctor. So I've cut all out of my notes, and I've gone for one moment.
Okay,
so it's Time of the Doctor. So in this episode, it's foretold that the Doctor will die on Transalore. This is where he is at the moment with Clara. In a last attempt to save Clara, he sends Clara back by tricking her. Once Clara steps out of the TARDIS back at home, she realises and jumps back on the TARDIS. Obviously, this leads to TARDIS taking many years to get back to the Doctor, hence why the Doctor has rapidly aged by the time they get back there. He has a catch up with Clara before tricking her again and sending her back home. This is where she stays due to the automatically shut down of the TARDIS. Doctor's friend, who earlier on in this episode got turned into one of the special Daleks, has overcome the Dalek programming and has gone and got Clara to tell her that it's time for the Doctor's death. By going back, Clara has another catch up with the Doctor, and there is a crack in the wall that has been following Matt Smith's Doctor throughout all of his series run. In this, it turns out to be the Gallifrey, the Time Lords, and due to knowing of his death, Clara begs the Time Lords to help him one final time. With this, the Doctor goes out to meet his fate with the Daleks, where the Time Lords grant him another set of regenerations. The reason why is because the 13th was meant to be his last generation. With this, the Doctor becomes useful again and defeats the Daleks. Clara meets the Doctor within the TARDIS, and he explains how he's on the reset mode, and he gives a big speech of his farewell, and not only does it represent him as the Doctor, it represents his time and appreciating being the Doctor. Before he gives this speech, he has
packs it. I think one of the things that makes a lot of the Doctor Who deaths, either of the Doctor or of the companions, I think some of the emotion comes through because they very deliberately shoot those things as the very last thing they shoot before they finish on being in the cast. So there's that element of real emotion from the actors because it's their last time working with a bunch of people they've enjoyed working with. But no, probably the most emotional I get with Doctor Who is Donna's last episode. I think that there's a number of reasons for that. I mean, first of all, she's a very different companion, because I think a lot of the female companions are either a love interest or, I mean, I'm not sure pet's quite the right word, but they're along for the ride.
Yeah.
And he's showing them around. Whereas I think with Donna, you found almost like a true equal to him.
Yeah.
If not in, obviously intellect and being a Time Lord, but in terms of the banter, and, she is very much his best friend.
Yeah. It's funny, when you mention Donna to me, when we do talk about Doctor and you say about Donna, all I hear is, "You want to mate?" or I think of the scene you're going to talk about where she's like, binary, 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 binary.
Yeah. Because I think that's the thing, is obviously all the way through, she's his equal on a lot of levels. And then they kind of finish that all up with her... It's from the hand, isn't it?
Yes.
So
all the way through that series, they kept on saying the Dr. Donna. But they just presumed, like I did, it's because the Doctor and Donna. That's not what they actually meant.
So for a very, very long time, by that point, the Doctor's been carrying around his hand from... that incarnation, or was it a previous incarnation? I'm trying to remember now.
It was when when David Tennant took over. It was his first one, and they were fighting something up high, and he chopped his hand off. It was Jack who got the hand, and it was sitting in the Torchwood offices in Cardiff. Because I believe it was Jack who left it on
the ship,
on the TARDIS.
Yeah, so basically Donna ends up taking Time Lord powers from the hand, which, instantly gives her, sight of the time rift and a whole bunch of intelligence and all the rest of it, which means that, she becomes the Dr. Donna, because it isn't just she's now part Time Lord, she's also part David Tennant, because it's his hand that she's taken those energies from. And
talking about that, don't you find it weird though, how we were talking about Buffy, how the non-supernatural character wins the day?
Yeah.
It's weird how Donna saves the day in this one.
Oh, yes.
As well. I just clicked, sorry, it just dawned on me when you were saying
they also
it.
play on the fact that it's like the Doctor's can't think his way out of the situation, and it's that twist of humanity on top of his intellect that then thinks outside the box and comes up with things that he's suddenly going, oh my god, that's brilliant, why didn't I think of that? And then it twigs with him that it's that human element that's meaning that she's thinking in a different, not more creative, but a creative way, in a different way to the way that he looks at stuff.
Yep.
So obviously, they save the day, but it then, I think, dawns on both of them. It dawns on the Doctor first that, Donna starts acting weird. And I think it dawns on him that she just can't handle, seeing the time rift and all that kind of thing in her head.
Well, he says no human should be able to see it.
So, and she's, not only has she, seen all of this, but it's all been very abrupt and just, rammed in her head. So, she's, about to die from, brain overload, I guess. Yeah. So, he realises this, and then he, looks to her, and he's like, you know what's going on, don't you? And I think that's the first, little heartstring that goes, ping! So, long story short, after all this, the only way the Doctor can save her is, to extract his essence from her. But, well, that's the thing, is he can't actually extract the essence, he has to lock it off from her. I think is the way, is what they're getting at. But in order for him to do that, she can't remember him at all. Or anything to do with him or the travels they've been on. So, for me, it was almost sadder than when companions or doctors and that have died, because she's still there, she's just now has no memory of, the most amazing, 6 months of her life. And again, I might be remembering this wrong, but doesn't she also say, I don't want to go?
Yeah. I'm sure she does.
Yeah.
But that's completely different.
Yeah, but it's interesting how they then echo that, because even though it's a smaller character, there's in the recent series, because again the Doctor has a tendency of wiping people's minds because they can't know about stuff. But again, I'm pretty sure it's Jodie Whittaker. She meets some particularly prominent female scientist from the 1800s, I want to say, possibly earlier. And again, you get that kind of mini Donna moment of it's somebody who actually gets it and has that inquisitive brain that she's like, oh my god, what about this? What about that? And what about the other? So when like Jodie has to turn to her and go, I have to take it away now.
Yeah.
It's that echo, I think it's emotional because it's that echo back to Donna. But also sort of in that moment it's just like just that horrible thing of like losing memories. And so yeah, I mean obviously clearly, we could both talk about Doctor Who and or Buffy forever and a day, and we have done for quite a while. So probably just we'll have a quick kind of go through some honourable mentions and try not to linger on things quite so much. So I mean I'll start with, because I think it's important because it's a very emotional moment in what would generally not be seen as emotional medium, I guess, in that superhero movies and comic books I think do have a lot of very emotional moments that fans of the genre are very aware of, but maybe people outside of the fandom are probably less aware of, because all they see is people in like flashy costumes doing superpowers and stuff like that. And maybe I think that's something that maybe the Marvel movies have been able to show to the rest of the world, that comic book characters and all the rest of it do actually go quite deep in a way. But one of the standouts from the Marvel movies is obviously Tony Stark when he dies in Endgame.
Basically sacrificing himself.
Yeah, so he gets burnt out by using the Infinity Gauntlet and is, slowly dying. And it's just that whole, he has the chat with Pepper, who he's recently...
Do you know what's more heartbreaking with that one? I mean, I'm not a big Iron Man fan, but it's obviously Pepper is there, but that's not upsetting. I think it's how Spider-Man reacts.
Yeah, because it's kind of like being his mentor and how the person who's got him to where he is, and he's being taken away way too early. Even
again, I'm not a Captain America fan, but I think even Steve's Captain America's reaction to it is. I mean, I don't think he actually says anything to Tony, but I think the look on his face when he realised what's happened, it's like, because they were friends, they were like brothers, and obviously they got torn apart because of the whole Civil War stuff between them. But I think at the end, it was, you could see the respect they had for each other.
Oh, absolutely. And again, I wonder if that was another one of the cases of that being deliberately a last day of filming scene. If not necessarily for the whole film, but the last day
of their scenes.
Robert Downey Jr. was ever on set. Yeah. So, he's been in that franchise for, nearly a decade by that point?
He's the one who started it all, wasn't it? Because you had the Incredible Hulk with Ed Norton, but it was Tony Stark who came in right at the end to to Betty's dad.
Yeah.
To start the Avengers.
Yeah, so he's the one who was initially in the post-credit scenes from a few movies, putting the Avengers together.
No,
I can't remember if Iron Man was actually the first film other than the Hulk.
No, it would have been Captain America. No, I think Iron Man was the next film, but it had that's when what's his name?
Nick Fury.
Yeah, Nick Fury.
That's when Nick Fury came into it.
And then I think Nick Fury took over the post-credit scenes for everything then.
Yeah.
But no, that scene is touching. It's, like I said, if I was more invested in Iron Man, I would probably feel it all, but I just like...
Yeah. But again, I think Endgame, they did quite a good job of having quite a few moments like that. Because again, you've got the whole, when they're trying to retrieve the Soul Stone. You've got that whole scene with Hawkeye and Black Widow
fighting over who's going to die.
It's like, but then obviously they don't love each other, but they're
like brother
again
and sister
like
type
brother and
love,
sister type love. And it's that whole thing if they realise that one of them's going to have to sacrifice themselves, but they desperately want to save each other. Yeah. Dead forever.
But no, that scene with Hawkeye and Black Widow is touching, especially when, and I think they kind of make it a bit, I always say comedic as well, the way that they are literally fighting over, literally like punching each other and everything. of who's going to jump and sacrifice themselves. And then I think it comes to a boil when doesn't she jump, but then he like grabs her and clings on, and then she's like saying, "No, it's fine, let me go."
Probably the next one for me is Star Wars, and both Han Solo and Leia's deaths, for very different reasons. And I think for both of them, I don't think that necessarily the scenes themselves are that well done. I think it's then like the tying into the real world. So in terms of for Han Solo, it's just the fact that I mean, you saw it coming like minutes before, but you know, I don't think you saw it coming that far in advance. And for that, I think it's just the fact that, you know, a lot of people have grown up with that character, and he's been there for so many people for so long that to kill that character off has a very, I think, for a lot of people, a personal, emotional thing to it, even if the scene itself wasn't that brilliantly done.
I think as soon as he said, I'll go talk to him or whatever, or when he started walking over to Ben, you knew what was going to happen.
Yeah.
And I understand why the scene had to happen was because Ben had to basically get rid of what was ever holding him back from fully committing to the dark side. But yeah, I agree that that whole scene wasn't done particularly well at all. I watched it and I was just like, oh, okay. You know? Yeah. And it's weird, in the original trilogy, I liked Han Solo. In this one, as soon as he was in it, I was like, I don't know what, I don't know. But like the Leia one, which I know you'll just go into, I kind of like how they did it and why they had to do it that way.
Yeah, so I think the scenes in the film for Leia were definitely done better, but I think the thing that was obviously so, and I think is even before that in the film before, because you know, obviously, you know, where at the point that Carrie Fisher died, that obviously when you've got the in some ways really cheesy scene where she like ends up floating in space and like uses the Force to drag herself back into the ship. In many ways, that scene is pretty cheese, but because
I kind of liked it,
I liked it, but I didn't at the same time.
I think it's because the reason I liked it was because with Leia, or Leia, how you pronounce it, you know, in the original trilogy, you knew she had some kind of Force power because she could like sense Luke.
Oh, the fact that she has the Force powers is absolutely fine.
But I think the fact that it never got discussed, she had training or anything, and then she's floating in midair, and then all of a sudden she's just like, woof, I'll use my power. It's like, oh, okay, when did you get trained? You know?
Yeah, so I mean, all of that is explored in a lot of the books. You know, the fact that she has a lightsaber and all the rest of it. You know, that is in the lore. It's just never done in the films. But no, for me, it was knowing that she was gone for real.
Yeah, see, I thought that was how they were going to kill her off, like the character.
Yeah,
I thought, wow, okay, this is a bit better than Han's death. But then when you see she uses the Force, I was more like, oh my god, I was more like, oh my god, I don't care if she's like alive or not. She just used the Force. You know, that's what I was more excited about. But no, I get where you're coming from. You know,
but I think all through that it was just like, because it was so recent, and again, I think it's that whole, she's somebody that's been, you know, not in our lives, in inverted commas, but you know, she's somebody who's been a part of so many people's childhoods and upbringings and everything, that I think after, you know, obviously she sadly passed away, just watching those films and just any moment with her, because it was so raw and recent, was just a bit of a
I think what really made it a bit bad is every time, like, if they were like, before she got blown out of the ship, every time, like, as soon as that scene started happening when they were attacking the ship, you're like, oh, is this it? Because obviously you knew, going into the film, you already knew she passed away in real life.
Yeah.
So it was that moment you were waiting for, is this how she's going to die? Is this how the character's going to die? and then it kind of like faked you out with the whole I'll use the force to come back into the ship, and then it's like, right, okay, she's talking, oh my god, they're getting attacked again. Is it you were waiting for that moment where they were like, this is it, and I think the way they finally did do it, where like I can't exactly remember how it was, but I know she was in, like, she was covered over in a blanket, and then then I think she just vanished, and she
again, I think for me, there's some personal true life experiences that kind of tugged on the heartstrings again of that whole thing of her holding on, and it wasn't until her son got his retribution and that she felt that on the force that she then finally lets go.
Yeah.
So to do some proper, just quick things, other stuff that we may come back to and talk to in more detail and revisit later. But for me, I think even though I knew it was coming because I'd read the books, I think Dumbledore's death in Harry Potter was actually done pretty well. Now that kind of got me, and quite a lot of that. The last few films were, they did hit some of those notes quite well. Sort of moving away from the more sort of geeky space, I guess. Cruel Intentions, when he gets killed at the end, I think just for that whole thing again of he had turned himself round, finally, everything had been sorted out, and he was about to embark on a decent life as a decent person, and then just in an instant, due to pure stupidity on his sister's account, that all comes to a quite shocking and abrupt end. Also, Moulin Rouge has got many moments. Again, I think that's partly the music element to it as well. They kind of do some very good usage of music and tones of music to really sort of pull out some of those kind of emotions.
And I just think it's really good how all these films and TV shows draw us all in, and I think if a director and producers and whatever can get you that hooked into feeling like this, I think it's a great thing to do, and they've done their job.
Yeah, and it's interesting, because obviously I think a lot of people also refer to TV and films as being escapism, but I think it's more than that. It's yes, you're escaping, but it's almost like how dreams let you process your own emotions and that kind of thing. That it's kind of you're escaping, but you're also being exposed to thoughts and ideas and emotions that I think really can help, grow us as people. That's why art is important, as much as a lot of people will try and say otherwise.
Well, with that being said, it's the end of the podcast, everyone.
Indeed it is.
I hope you're not as emotionally drained as we are going through all these today. And obviously we will probably do another one of these. Obviously not about films emotionally or anything, but
I think kind of for both of us, mental health as a whole is a very important topic, and as much as I don't think we want to be turning the channel into a platform all the time. I think there are certain things that are important to bring up, once in a while in all walks of life, and we everyone does need to be talking about these things, and it is important.
I agree with you. And like we said, we'll probably pick up on this kind of subject closer to the Mental Health Awareness Month and things like that. But it was something different for us to do.
Yeah.
And because I think a lot of people think geeky stuff's all about nerding out and glasses being put, that kind of thing. But you can still watch a geeky film or TV show and still feel emotion. It's not all about...
Oh, absolutely. And I think, again, it's the people who are assumed to not be emotional are the ones who are the most vulnerable.
Yeah. Well, with that being said, before we burst into tears again, guys, it's a goodbye from Zong.
And it's goodbye from Klaw.
Until next time, guys, keep it geeky.